Welcome to the latest Seahawks Draft Blog live stream. Solo stream tonight. Just going to run through the mock draft that I published this week and just flesh it out a little bit more. Talk about the decisions that I made, what I think the Seahawks might do a week on Thursday. So we're going to go through that. I'm going to share the screen in a minute and run through the mock draft. If you have anything that you want to say, any questions about the draft, anything that you want to input, send in via a super chat and I will run through those as we go along. So let's get into it then. I'm going to sort of go through each pick in round one, and I'll do it in round two as well, and I'll spend a bit more time on the Seahawks. But just quickly to get to the Seahawks and discuss that and get on to sort of what I think most people are here for, let's get through some of these. So the first thing, Titans, Cam Ward. I don't personally understand why the Titans are going to go and do this again, because they've been down this road before. They've drafted Malik Willis, they've drafted Will Levis. Now they're going to draft Cam Ward, he is not Caleb Williams. He's not Jaden Daniels. He is not Drake May. He is a player who I was speaking to somebody who really knows his stuff not that long ago, and he felt that Cam Ward was a third-round grade. He thought that Shadur Sanders was a second-round grade, and he thought that Cam Ward was a third-round grade. So I understand watching his tape at Miami why you might think there's some traits there. There are some things to invest in. You've just seen Jaden Daniels do very, very well after he sort of elevated his play in his final year at LSU. I'm not saying that Cam Ward can't do the same thing. But Jaden Daniels is just such an explosive athlete, incredible the way that he was getting the ball downfield, the way that he scrambled with his legs. And I just think with Cam Ward, I'm not sure he's got that same magic. So I personally don't understand why the Titans are just going to take yet another quarterback. Abdul Carter would be superb for a pass rush that really relies on Jeffrey Simmons. Travis Hunter would be an option there as well. Trade down if the Giants or the Browns are really that interested in Cam Ward. But looks if they're going to go in this direction, it's not what I would do. Browns at number 2, it seems pretty obvious at this stage that Travis Hunter is going to go there rather than Abdul Carter. They seem to have made their choice. And maybe later on they will try and trade up and get Shadur Sanders and reunite him with Travis Hunter. That leaves Abdul Carter for the Giants. I think this is probably the worst case scenario for the Giants. Now, it's still good to get a player of Abdul Carter's quality, but they want a quarterback. And by all accounts, all of the talk is that they had their eye on Cam Ward and they liked Cam Ward. If you can't get him, Travis Hunter would have filled a hole for them, whether you use him as a receiver or as a cornerback. You've already got 2 pass rushers, one which you traded for with a second-round pick and paid him a fortune. The other you spent a top 10 pick on already, and now you're getting another one. Not ideal. They will work out a way to get the 3 of them on the field, but it just gets a little fiddly, doesn't it? It's not ideal for the Giants, but this is the hand that they're going to be dealt. Now, with the Patriots here, I do wonder a little bit whether all of the trend is that it's going to be it's going to be Will Campbell. I still think there's a chance they could go in a different direction here, whether that is to go and surprise everybody and take Tyler Warren for Drake May, whether that is to go and take Jalen Walker as a pass rusher. I still think that's possible. I'm not sure about Armand Membu just because he can't play left tackle. So I understand the thought process with this. I just don't think Will Campbell's as good as many believe. I don't think he played very well in 2024. I think he got beat too often. I think he's very upright. His footwork's amazing. He's got short arms. I don't think he can project inside particularly well if he doesn't work out at tackle. For me, I'm just not a huge fan of it. But, as I always say, if you need a left tackle and you draft one early, I can sort of understand the thought process there and will to some extent give the Patriots the benefit of the doubt until it hasn't worked out. Number 5 for the Jaguars, I think this might well be where the draft begins, because if the Patriots are definitely going to take Will Campbell at 4, what are the Jags going to do? Because everybody says Mason Graham, and that's who I'm going to go with here. But Mason Graham's tape's good, unorthodox body, has not done any testing so far. What is his level of upside? I thought he was on the 2023 tape was a slightly better version of Byron Murphy. 2024, I don't think he played as well, but we don't have any testing. Murphy tested superbly. Graham has not had the testing. So you kind of wonder, what is he? You look at Jalen Walker as a potential option. I think you also look at Tyler Warren as a potential option here. I think that could happen. And Ashton Genty as a potential option. So I wouldn't assume this is going to be Mason Graham. I think any of those three players could go there. Part of me wonders with Liam Cohen in charge, and I wonder how much sway he has, given they had to give him all that money to lure him away from Tampa Bay, whether he is just the decision maker now, and whether he will say, get me Tyler Warren, get me Ashton Genty. I want offense. I want to make Trevor Lawrence's life better. So everyone's kind of assuming, as I have in this mock, that it's Mason Graham. By the time we get to next week, it will not surprise me if people are projecting that to be an offensive player. And I think maybe Warren or Genty, but we'll see. We'll see what happens there. And I wouldn't rule out Jalen Walker either. I think it's a very similar situation here with the Raiders. I don't know. Like, I can understand why they would take Ashton Genty as a best player available situation. But they have a GM who has come from Tampa Bay, and they were very much a trenches team. They could use another pass rusher. Jalen Walker would be a good fit there. They could use a right tackle or right guard upgrade, and Armand Membu would fit there. If Mason Graham isn't taken at 5, they could take him at number 6. So I'm not assuming everyone again is just going with Genty at 6, and I'm going to do it here as well. I'm just not totally sure. I wouldn't buy too much into this. Well, Pete Carroll had beast mode, so they're going to take a running back at number 6. It might happen. I just wouldn't assume that that's going to be the case. So, number 7, Jets. Another one where I think there's question marks here. People have said quarterback is an option, and I think Tom McShay threw out the possibility of Jackson Dart here. I think that would be a bad decision for the Jets. I think that would put the Jets back in the kind of place they've been too often, which is, reaching for a quarterback or taking one who isn't special very early, sort of pinning all the hopes on him. I think the best thing the Jets could do right now is build a foundation, build something under their new head coach. And I think Glenn, as the head coach, is the right man to try and change the culture of the Jets. Their offensive coordinator is inexperienced. He's going to have to work things out. The best way to do that is to have a good offensive line and get some weapons and maybe just buy yourself a bit of time. And ownership have to be appreciative of that this is not going to be a Super Bowl run for the Jets in 2025. And I think if they are measured and patient, they can build something, but they have to take that first step of accepting that they need to build. They're not a draft away from being a contender. I think that the decision here is quite clear. Do you take Tyler Warren at 7, which is a distinct possibility, or do you take Armand Membu to finish off your offensive line? And just purely because of the Detroit factor, I'm going to have them taking Membu. Now, they may well take a tight end in round 2, easily. They could easily take a tight end in round 2 because they think they need another weapon like that. But I think here they'll take the offensive line, especially the way that Membu tested. Just unbelievable testing. One of the great all-time explosive testers, just with the way that he's performed there, his size and his speed as well. He's a top 10 physical profile, and his tape's good. So I think you have to take him there. Panthers at number 8. If it falls this way, I think everybody expects they're going to take Jalen Walker as a pass rusher. And then the Saints. The Saints, some people say Shador. Todd McShay's convinced it's going to be Jackson Dart. I still wonder a little bit whether it could be just best defensive player available here and then wait on the quarterback. And, you could take a quarterback in round 2. They've got the 40th pick. They could take a quarterback in round 3. They seem to have at least some time for Spencer Rattler. So they don't have to take a quarterback here. And it would not surprise me at all even if it's a receiver maybe, or a tight end, or I'll say best defensive player available. But all of the talk from the people I'm choosing to believe at this time, which is people like Todd McShay, is that it could be Jackson Dart. So that's who I went with here. I had the Saints taking Jackson Dart with this pick. So that takes us to number 10. And you will have noticed if you've looked at the board there that I have the Seahawks trading up to number 10. Why do I think this is a possibility? Well, first of all, this is a draft with very few blue chip players. I'm going to publish my final horizontal board. I'm kind of putting the finishing touch, tweaking it a lot at the minute. There's a couple of other things I want to do first, and then I'm going to publish a final board maybe later this week, maybe early next week. But at the minute, I have in the true, legit first round pick grade on my board, I only have Genty, Warren, Loveland, Membu, Carter, Walker, and Hunter. That's it. So when you've got a draft class where you only have 7 on my board, legit first rounders, I'm sure that some people will have Mason Graham in that. I just think he's a shade beneath in the next tier. Some people will have Mason Graham in that and say 8. Some people might have, Tataro McMillan there. I don't have anywhere near that. Some people might have Will Johnson there. But I think it's fair to say, between 7 and 11, true first round players. And the Seahawks are in this place now where, they had a lot of picks in 2022. They had a lot of picks in 2023. They didn't in 2024, but they've been building a team now for a few years. And I don't get the sense that another draft where they necessarily need all of their 10 picks or need to get even more is the best thing. I think what the Seahawks need more than anything right now is star talent. It's a player who's going to come in and elevate the team to a new level. It's a player who is going to be a potential difference maker. And that's why I have them moving up into this range. You are getting one of the very few players who has got that legit first round grade. You kind of believe, at least in this projection here, in this scenario, that Warren can fill the void left by DK Metcalf, that he's not just going to come in and essentially just replicate what Noah Fant's done in the offense, that he's going to be someone that they target a lot, that they get very creative with, that they move him around to different areas. They could even have him doing a bit of wildcat stuff in the red zone, which is what he did at Penn State. That you can make him a multi-dimensional player, and that he is going to get fed the ball a lot and complement what you already have. And I would be completely happy with moving up to go and get somebody like that. If you come away with one of the better players in the draft, it makes sense. Now, in this deal, I had a look around to see if there was any, when I was sort of preparing them up, like who's thinking of moving down, which are the fan bases that are open-minded to it. And, there's the obvious ones, like the Rams don't have a lot of picks. The Vikings don't have many picks. The Falcons are another one. Their fan bases are thinking of moving down. But I needed to get higher than that for Seattle and Atlanta. And the Bears, there was a Bears website that was talking about trading down. And they pitched 3 trades, and one of them was with the Seahawks. Now, their idea was they were going to trade up for an offensive lineman. There's none worth having. If Membu was there, you could put him there instead, but he's not. So they were pitching the Seahawks moving up, and they suggested the 82nd pick, so your first third rounder, 137 overall, and a 2026 fourth rounder. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, sign me up to that. Like, that is not an expensive trade up. You don't lose either of your 2 second rounders. You don't lose your first or your second rounder next year. You've got 2 third rounders, so you give one of them away. It's not the end of the world. I mean, you have to give something up to move up. And you give the 4th rounder. I would even go as far to say if it was the 3rd this year and the 3rd next year that I would do this. Maybe even throw a 5th in if needs be. If you can get up and go and get one of the best players in the draft and go and get an impact player and add quality to this team, not just another player to put into the mix. That's part of the issue with Seattle's roster right now. It's a collection of good players and very few great players. Why would Tyler Warren be great? I think the more that you sort of watched him last season, and I mean, kind of studied him again in preparation for this mock, just the feeling that I get with him is that he could be a Travis Kelce type player. People have said Gronk. I mean, his blocking's nowhere near as good as Gronk's. And I think the thing with Gronk is he was more just an I think he was more rare. I think it was just this completely conventional tight end who was just one of a kind. I think the thing with Kelsey is, and when you watch him, it's the movement, it's the ability to just sort of feed your offense through him. And he has good size. Now, he's not got great length, but he has got good size. And I could just imagine them sort of moving him into different areas, finding those matchups, getting into the right play call where you can capitalize on opportunities with him is what the Chiefs do with Kelsey, and that he could be that kind of player. So that's the comparison that I'm going with. I think Colston Loveland would also be an option here. I think Loveland is more of a Sam Laporta type player. And I just have a feeling that those two players might be players that they want to try and move up and get to. So I know there are some people who think Loveland's better than Warren, and some people rate him higher in the league. So it could be that they move up and they go and target Colston Loveland. It doesn't have to be Tyler Warren. I just think in this situation, I've gone with Warren, but I could easily have gone with, they move up and they deal with the Miami, or they get a 10 anyway and take Loveland. I just think that this is, one, a positional group with quality, and two, a position they might want to add a real top player to. And if they don't go up and get Tyler Warren or get Colston Loveland in round one, I could see them moving up from 50 to go and get Elijah Arroyo or Mason Taylor. I think you have Warren and Loveland, and then a tier. The next tier down is Arroyo and Taylor, and then you've got a big gap until everybody else. And there are some decent options in the everyone else group. There are some players who are going to turn into contributors in the NFL. I think you've got them already. The Seahawks don't need another AJ Barner. They need somebody who can be an X factor if they're going to go and add another one of these players. So I think there's a distinct chance that if Warren and Loveland last to 10, they will start making calls to try and move up. It's whether or not Warren gets past the Jets at 7 and the Patriots at 4. If that happens, that could be the trigger for, right, okay, let's say the Jets take Membu. You start ringing up Chicago Bears at that point. If Warren's there at 10, we want to come up. What will it take? You get the deal done. I could see that happening. This is not I think this is definitely going to happen. This is just an idea that I'm throwing out, and we'll see what happens a week on Thursday. I think this is a distinct possibility. Just another point on tight ends before we move on. I would also say, if you want a wild card pick at 18, I wouldn't completely rule out Elijah Arroyo, by the way. I think it's high, and it would be too high. But guess what? Whoever you take at 18 is probably going to be 5 to 7 picks higher than you otherwise would want to. If they can trade down, great. How possible is that? Don't know. Would I be interested if the Browns or the Giants want to move up and get a quarterback, give you 33 or 33 or 34, give you an early 30? Yeah, I'd be interested in that kind of deal. Would I take Arroyo and Taylor that? Yes, I would. But I just got a feeling that, look, if Warren's there, you maybe go up and get him. You go and do what the Rams couldn't do with Brock Bowers last year or Byron Murphy. You go and get your guy. And I think that could be something that they do. And then people are asking about what happens to Noah Fant. At this stage, I think Noah Fant is on the roster as a draft hedge. I think he's there in case they don't do this. If they have to go with Noah Fant next year, fine. If they end up moving up for Tyler Warren, you can maybe trade him for a ham sandwich. That it would be a late pick. It might be a pick next year. I don't think you're going to get an awful lot, especially after you made a big move to get Tyler Warren. Teams are not going to be knocking your door down to offer you a big move for Noah Fant on a 1-year deal, essentially. You'd get very little in return, but that's what you would do. If you had to cut him, you make a save in there. People say, well, they don't need any more cap space. They might do with extensions. You want to roll money over. There's that as well. So I just think this is a position to put a big rig round, whether it is in round 2, moving up, whether it is in round 1, moving down, or even moving up. And I think Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are players that I could see the Seahawks doing this for. And I'm telling you, if they move up and take Tyler Warren at number 10 and it costs similar to the compensation we're talking about here, I think the vast majority of Seahawks fans will say, fair enough. I think they will celebrate it. I will celebrate it. I'll think it'd be a good move. So I think that it makes sense. And final thing is offensive linemen. Better options might be on day 2 for this Seahawks team. Anyway, we'll crack on. And if anybody has any sort of super chats about this or anything like that, stick them in. What I'll probably do is I'll probably get through the rest of the first round, come to the super chats, do round 2, finish off the rest of the super chats. So number 11, San Francisco. I have them taking Kelvin Banks. Now, the two big needs for the Niners are defensive tackle, well, defensive line in general, or cornerback. And I don't have them taking either here. I think that what they might do is plan ahead. They've taken offensive linemen in this kind of range in the past. Trent Williams is not going to be around forever. Colt McKivitz isn't very good. And Kelvin Banks might just outright replace him straight away. But if not, you're sort of looking ahead. You are going to have to get cheaper at certain positions once you pay Brock Purdy. If you want to pay Brock Purdy, you've got to protect Purdy. And this would make some sense for them. I'm not a huge Kelvin Banks Jr. fan, though. I don't think he'd be worth a pick this early. I'm not convinced about his fit at left tackle. I'm not convinced he's fit at guard either. I like his movement into space, but I think he's a right tackle for me. But we'll see. I've got Tetero McMillan. Apparently, he doesn't like Tet, which is a shame because it sounds good. McMillan at number 12 to the Cowboys. I'm not a fan of McMillan's. I'm just not. He's just one of those players that when I watch him, I'm just happy for somebody else to draft him. And if he ends up being amazing, then bully for them. I'm just not. He's not somebody who interests me. I spoke to somebody whose opinion I value greatly, and he said McMillan will be the first receiver taken. So not my guy, but the guy I've got them taking here at number 12, the Cowboys. Number 13, Miami. He had a sort of pro day today, Will Johnson. He didn't run a 40, but no one expects him to run fast anyway. I think he's a good player. He's going to be well liked by whoever takes him. I think a solid player, maybe not a spectacular player, but the Dolphins have got a whole bunch of needs. Cornerback, interior line, defensive tackle, maybe left tackle. There's so many different directions they could go, but I've got them taking Will Johnson there. 14 and the Colts. This is, for me, Colston Loveland's floor. I know there's a lot of Seahawks fans thinking, you can take Loveland at 18. I don't believe that at all. I don't think there's any chance that he's going to last to number 18. I think even if you see him get past the Colts, which I think is massively unlikely, I don't think he still gets 18. I think someone might move up and get him, whether it's the Chargers, Rams. I think someone would go up and get Colston Loveland. He is one of the very best players in this draft. His stock, people don't realize that because his stock has been hampered by the injury and also the fact that Michigan played without a quarterback or without a functioning quarterback last year. If he had JJ McCarthy as his quarterback again this year and they were actual functioning offense, then I think Colston Loveland will be considered by many to be an absolute top 15 lock, which is what I think anyway. But that would just be the consensus view. I mean, he's too good. He's too good. And if the Seahawks traded up for him instead of Warren, I'd be completely fine with that as well. He's one of the best players in the draft. Falcons at 15. I am going to have them take Donovan Ezeraku. Now, I really like Ezeraku. You just think about what he has. He's got 34-inch arms. He has a short shuttle that is like a 4.19, which is elite. He has 16 and a half sacks and more pressures than anybody else other than Braden Swinson, who are the same in college football regular season last year. 16 and a half sacks. So you've got a productive, long, highly athletic player who has also got A+ character. That's the kind of player who goes early. And when you think of some of these, like, Shamar Stewart's got better athleticism, better size. Yeah, but he can't finish. Mike Green's got character issues. Michael Williams, what is he at this point? He's talented, but he's never healthy. He's not consistent. James Pierce has got massive character issues. You just look at all these players and just risk. And then you've got Ezeraku and you think, do you know what? For a team like the Falcons who have no pass rush, he's going to come in and he's going to rush the passer. Now, it might not be Micah Parsons. It might not be an elite player, but he can get you 10 sacks. And I think he's a safer pick It might not be the most exciting pick, but I think he'll get you 10 sacks consistently. And really, for a team like the Falcons, that's not to be sniffed at. And that's what this draft's going to be about for the most part. It's why I've got the Seahawks moving up. It's not so much about, whoa, you can get an amazing player here. I mean, the chances are that Shamar Stewart they ain't going to be amazing players. And I think when you get a good player, I think a lot of teams are going to view it like that. Yeah, we'll reason with a good player in the first round. Saves you making a massive mistake. Cardinals at 16 could do a lot of things. I just think the interior offensive line options here are not that great. So defensive line, they've done a lot of improvements in free agency. I had them just sort of going with the best player here. And I had them taking Matthew Golden. Now, I know they've got a defensive-minded head coach, but the thing you've got to remember is they're also from the Eagles background, the head coach, where they have multiple receivers, multiple targets, can attack you in lots of different ways. A good tight end as well in Philadelphia, running back. So I think weapons on top of, we've already signed Josh Sweat. We've got a first-round defensive lineman the year before. We've pumped a fair bit of money into that unit now. I don't think they have to go for the Lions here. I think they could go with another weapon. 17, Bengals. If there is one team who does not give a toss about character issues, it is the Bengals. So my green goes there. Bears having moved down 8 spots. I have them taking Marion Hampton. I think they would possibly take him at 10, so they moved down to 18. Take him at 18 anyway. People would go, well, why wouldn't they take Tyler Warren at number 10? Well, they might do. They might decide they don't want to trade down. But I think with the 2 high second-round picks that they've got, they can legitimately think we can get Arroyo or Taylor there. If the Seahawks had one of those picks, they probably wouldn't be trading up, or they might reconsider it. With the Bears, because they can do that, trade down, be a bit kind of flexible with this, go and get a running back that can be sort of their answer to like a plus version of David Montgomery for Ben Johnson. So I've got the Bears taking Marion Hampton. Tampa Bay. So if the Seahawks didn't move down, I'm just going to put the next 2 players up on the board. So Malachi Starks to Tampa Bay, and then Emeka Egbuka to the Broncos at 20. If the Seahawks didn't trade down from 18, trade up from 18, sorry. If they stayed at 18, the 2 players in this scenario, because consider Donovan Ezeraku's gone at 15, who I think would potentially be an option for them as well. But the 2 players who are actually available that I think they would consider at 18 in this scenario would have been Malachi Starks and Emeka Egbuka. I think both are exactly the kind of people the Seahawks want to draft. So that's first and foremost. A+++ character. They are extremely risk averse these days with their high picks. I totally understand why. They want gritty, competitive, serious individuals who are going to come in and with the desire to become great. That's Starks. That's Egbuka. On the field, tape excellent. Starks is one of the few players in the draft who can play deep and then make plays to the ball. It's rare. There are not many safeties who can do that these days. So people talk about the versatility and stuff like that. If you want a safety who can sit deep and then react to what's in front of him, whether that's a pass downfield, a dump off, a screen, a running play, and he can get to the ball quickly and make plays, that's Malachi Starks. So for me, that's the kind of safety that you take in this range. And then with Egbuka, the person who I'm not just going to repeat, I probably am going to repeat everything I've already said. The guy at Ohio State on a loaded team, someone who has just been a pro in a young man's body for a long time from high school. And, the testing being better than a lot of people expected, I think is just a positive thing for him. People will say, well, is he too similar to what they already have on the roster? No, because Cooper Kupp might be a 1-year thing. And if you're prepared to sign Cooper Kupp and have JSN on the same team, and that's like your 2, then why wouldn't you be prepared to have Egbuka and JSN as your 2 in the future if Kupp's just a 1-year thing, or even if it's a 2-year thing? Like, if you are willing to sign Kupp, why wouldn't you be willing to draft the future Cooper Kupp maybe? And when you look at the Rams, they had Kupp and Puka Nacua. Like, the idea that this offense can't have 2 receivers like this is just, I don't understand that. And they don't need a DK Metcalf top. They don't need someone who gets down from him. The Niners have never had that. They just don't. They have these players who operate in the same way that Ibuka and JSN do. Brandon Ayuk is not DK Metcalf. Jennings is around like a 4.71. Debo's not like this. Like, they're players who play within this scheme. And if you're going to run this scheme, you're going to get the players to run this scheme. Now, the player comparison that was presented to me when I first started talking about it was Amon-Ra St. Brown. I was listening to Greg Cosell today on an Eagles podcast, and he compared Ibuka to Amon-Ra St. Brown. If anyone's telling me that you'd be disappointed with Amon-Ra St. Brown with the 18th pick in the draft, I'm going to call you a liar, because that player can play. He can play. So I think Starks or Ibuka could be the guy at 18 if they don't move up. But in this mock, I've got the Seahawks moving up to go and get Tyler Warren. But they would have been there. If people are wondering, wow, what would you have done if they'd have stayed at 18? They would have been the players that I picked at 18. It would have been between Starks and Ibuka. On to the Steelers at 21. I just do not, maybe I'm wrong. I just don't have a feeling that Mike Tomlin wants the Shedeur Sanders experience. Maybe I'm wrong. I just don't think that's his guy. I think they're going to sign Aaron Rodgers and maybe just go with that. See what's there in round 3. Or sign Aaron Rodgers. You've got DK Metcalf. You go and add a defensive lineman or a safety here or a cornerback. You go and get a running back later. And you say, we're just going to go with Aaron Rodgers. Because I think they want to win now. And I think I just think that's what they're going to do. I'm going to have them taking Nick Emanwari. Now, a lot of Seahawks fans like, Seahawks should take Emanwari. First of all, there are some reported character issues there. I'll read what it says, and people always kind of go, "Oh yeah, Bob McGinn's sources and all of this." I'd tell you, I've been reading Bob McGinn's stuff for a long time. People like to pick apart the negative stuff because it's not convenient for some people who like these people and these players and understand that. And also, no one wants to see these people criticized, these young men criticized before they get into the draft. But if you want legit information, then you have to go and find out what teams are saying. And that's the biz, I'm afraid. Like, these are the conversations that are going to be being had in draft rooms. So there was one scout that said there's some inconsistency and possible character issues, more like football immaturity. I had him as a 2nd or 3rd rounder. He's a giant safety, above average in coverage, especially for a big man. Motor is a little disappointing in pursuit and when it's not his play to make, but he's a good football player. And then there was another one saying he's just like some of those workout guys in the past, Isaiah Simmons, Obi Melifonwu, those gigantic guys that work out. You just can't play safety if you're that damn big. I don't like him as a player. And then the history of those guys, everyone was trying to find Cam Chancellor, but he was one of a kind. Yes, he was. And that is a good point to make. You can look for Cam. You'll never find him. You will never find Cam Chancellor. He is one of a kind. You have to hope that he is the safety of Baltimore. You have to hope he's Kyle Hamilton. But Kyle Hamilton's tape was, for me, so much better. Kyle Hamilton was not a workout warrior. Kyle Hamilton was instinctive, physical. For me, Emanwari is more of an athlete who can do things that you shouldn't be able to do at that size. I think you can play him in the same ways that you play Kyle Hamilton, but I don't think he's the same level of player at all. And then there was this final comment here. Buyer beware, said one scout. The size and speed are outstanding, but the change of direction is not great, which makes me worry about covering tight ends. I didn't think he played with a lot of urgency. If you're taking him, you're just betting on the ability and that he'll keep improving. There was also this comment, which I found interesting. He's naturally contrarian to most everything. He's got top 20 talent, but there's some bells and whistles that come with him. Just be sure that he can probably phrase some things. You've got to have somebody to deal with the personality. They say this guy is so strong-willed. If you get him onto your side, he'll save the world. If he is opposed to your views, he'll burn the world down. Now, some teams are not going to give a toss about whether he's a contrarian or not, and some are. I just don't think, you tell me, like the Seahawks have just moved on from Geno Smith and DK Metcalf. You honestly think they're going to take somebody who fits what I've just described to you there with the 18th overall pick? I am convinced that the reason that they had him in as an official 30 visit is to discover how true some of that stuff is. And they've had McMillan in because there are some similar concerns with him about his effort and his desire. They've had him in for an official visit. Michael Williams is coming for an official visit. I think they're trying to find out more about the players that they don't know about in terms of their personality. Like they've got no reason to meet with Emeka Egbuka or Malachi Starks or Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland or people like that who have A+ character. They have every reason to meet with Nick Emmanwori and Michael Williams and Ted McMillan and stuff like that. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think the Seahawks are going to take this guy at 18 unless he just absolutely blew them away when they're in the facility and think that is okay. But if what I've just described is accurate there from Bob McGinn's sources, he ain't going to be Seattle's pick at number 18, people. I'm just telling you now. They've been very risk-averse with their picks. Number 22, LA Chargers. I had them taking the aforementioned Michael Williams here. Packers at number 23. This is an interesting one. I had them taking Walter Nolan. Now, Walter Nolan is somebody who, like my best source in the NFL. I know it's unbelievable. I live in Rotherham, but I speak to people. I've been doing this a long time. My best source in the NFL told me, but he loves Walter Nolan. He thinks Walter Nolan's great. And there are definitely people out there who think that his tape and his potential are that some of the comparisons have been like to Jalen Carter, for example. Like when he's at his best, he does the kind of things that Carter was doing at Georgia. Now, his character issues are not as serious as Jalen Carter's, but there are character concerns about him as the person, like a bit of entitlement, like how his attitude is, what he's like as a person. And for that reason, he's probably not going to go as high as he could. But there are going to be teams in the teens who, as with Carter, who start to think, hang on a minute, is he just too good to pass? Can we manage with this person? I would imagine he's done a lot of official 30 visits with teams in the sort of 10 to 25 range, trying to work out what he's all about. The Packers might say no, but they need impact. They need someone who's going to take them to the next level. Their pass rush has not been good enough. And you just wonder, would they take Walter Nolan here, take a chance on him being the guy that takes him to the next level? I don't know. Maybe not. They've taken little chances with character recently. Maybe they'll do it again here and take him at number 23. But there's some people love him, some people hate him. That's the kind of the view with Nolan. He is inconsistent, but there we go. I have the Browns trading up to 24 here. The Vikings don't have any picks. I think they've got like 4 picks. So they are going to be quite keen to move down. And you might end up getting a bit of a bargain moving up here because the Vikings are keen to move down. But I have the Browns moving up. There's all these like little, this is very Browns thing to do. Like, oh, we've taken Travis Hunter, now let's move up and get Shadur Sanders. Maybe they move up to like 15 to do this and get ahead of Steelers, or maybe they go up to the Seahawks, the Cardinals, or the Bucks and do a deal to get ahead of Pittsburgh. Denver at 20, I guess, is another one. To go and get their guy. But you can just imagine it happening. Joe Flacco's he's a bridge. He's a bridge that doesn't even have to start this year. He could be the backup if you wanted to play Shadur as a rookie. That would just give a bit of buzz and a bit of headline grabbing to Cleveland, get them in the headlines there. It's the kind of thing you can imagine their ownership trying to do. And this is the ownership that really pushed for Deshaun Watson after all. 25 for the Texans. Not a player that I'm massively crazy about, but some people are. Josh Connolly Jr. doesn't have to start right away, given the free agency moves that they've done. They could find a role for him, though, as a rookie. If not, so the long-term option, I would guess. Rams at 26. No quarterback here. That is kind of like the new trend. Like people saying Jalen Milroe here, stuff like that. I don't really understand why Jahdae Barron is in most of the mocks, even the people who love him like McShay have got him falling now. I don't really understand why. He could be an option for the Seahawks. Like top character, good tape, tested well. For me, seems like the complete package in many regards. Very modern player. Could play him star. You could play him outside corner. You could play him nickel. You could convert him to a safety if you wanted. I don't really understand why the feeling is he's falling, but there we go. I'm just going along with the crowd on that one. Ravens at 27. I've got them taking Jihad Campbell. Now, I think Jihad Campbell, I thought pre-injury, he was the 6th best player in the draft. Now, when you Taylor Labram, you have to sort of reconsider that because, he may not play as a rookie. That's a write-off year, and that you do have to drop a player a little bit for an injury flag like that. How are they going to come back? How is that shoulder going to be, particularly that linebacker, when you're just hammering people all the time? But I just think you put him next to Roquan Smith, and that's like classic Ravens defense type of thing there. He can rush the passer a little bit as well. They could even try and turn him into a pass rush if they wanted to full time. It just feels like typical Ravens getting value there, but the medicals will be very important. Detroit, I have them taking Gray Zabel. I like Gray Zabel a lot. If the Seahawks took him at 18, I would not be disappointed with that at all in the slightest. Explosive, agile, top character, really solid player. But again, speaking to my top source not long ago, he said it would be a poor choice of a first-round pick to take Gray Zabel in round 1. The sort of consensus view for him is he's like the 30th to 35th best player in the draft. It is possible that, I think the Senior Bowl was overrated. I really like Gray Zabel's tape and his testing and his personality. I thought the Senior Bowl stuff was overrated. So I don't consider that as a big plus that a lot of people do. So is he going to go as early as people were saying maybe about a month ago? I don't think so. Could he still go in the late first? Maybe. Could he be there in the early second? I wouldn't rule it out. Washington at 29. They are still in need of pass rushers. Shamar Stewart has got everything you need physically. He just cannot finish. He cannot finish. It's all well and good getting into the backfield, but he doesn't finish. I don't want to play. I did the test, and people say about the physical tools. There are a whole bunch of players like him that tested brilliantly and didn't work out. Every single one of the players who tested like him that did work out, the average was 24 sacks in a college career. He had 4.5. I mean, come on. That scares me. He's another one of those players that I respect that he might become great for somebody else. I'm letting somebody else take that chance. I don't think there's anything wrong with that approach to that. Bills at number 30. Kenneth Grant. They need a 1 technique. I mean, I think Grant can play a bit of 3 as well. But they do need a 1 with size. Grant's one of those players who he was so high on Bruce Feldman's freaks list. And you kind of think, okay, then you see the testing and it's not as impressive as the freaks list made out it was going to be. You watch the tape, and I thought he was massively underwhelming in 2024. The number of Michigan games you'd watch and you just think, you're like, come on, do something, man. I want to see it. What's all the fuss about? And there was nothing there. But if you slap on a highlights video, Kenneth Grant can look great in a highlights video when you just take the select times when he skips past somebody and gets into the backfield, swims, chases somebody down in the open field. Those clips are great. If you're on PFF Ultimate, where you can just say, show me all of Kenneth Grant's sacks, you think he's like a top 10 pick. But if you actually watch the full tape, there's like flashes of brilliance mixed around a whole bunch of average. And for that reason, I don't know where you can put him. I'm sure there are teams that think of him very highly and think we can unlock this guy, and he could be like Dexter Lawrence or something. And if he is Dexter, fair play. I mean, one of the best defensive linemen in the league. In short bursts, looks like the best defensive lineman in the league. But I just think the overall view on the tape was somebody who underwhelmed for me. So I think this is about where he should go, between 30 and 40. I would not be surprised if someone did believe he was Dexter Lawrence. I wouldn't be surprised if he lasted into the second round. He's a tough one to project, but I think he could go in this range. 31, the Chiefs. I have got them taking Derek Harmon. Now, I'm not a huge Derek Harmon guy. I thought he had a better combine than I expected. He's got a flabby midriff. Like, I'm always skeptical of players who are not, especially like defensive linemen, who are, it's not that they're small in the upper body, but they're like bigger in the midriff than they are upstairs. It just feels to me like, come on, man. Like, I like a Byron Murphy body type. That's the kind of body type for me, like a big fat arse, power in the legs, well proportioned, low body fat, but big, but 300 pounds. That's what I'm looking for in a defensive tackle. This kind of like tall, not particularly big in the upper body, big flabby midriff, not the big arse. That's not really for me. And when you watch him on the tape, you see him athletically getting into the backfield, but then he can't finish. Like he can't turn his body to get to the quarterback and finish. He's another one who he's very good at getting the pressures, but he doesn't tend to finish. And I just don't think he's got that agility and that turn to, once, it might win with a bit of quickness or a swim or shooting a gap early on, but is he going to find the quarterback? And I'm not sure about that. But maybe put him next to Chris Jones, he might not need to. Like, if he just sort of can burst into the backfield, then you've got to watch him anyway. Or Chris Jones is going to flush the quarterback into his path anyway. That works. But if you're relying on him to be Chris Jones on his own, it ain't going to work. Eagles at 32. Maxwell Hairston, who I think is a freaking good player. Like, really, really good player. Loved watching his tape. Loved his combine. But there's just that character stuff that I can't. If it were me, I'm digging into that like crazy, and I'm probably not going to draft him. But some teams will take the risk, some others won't. I'm interested to see what happens to him and Mike Green. You can find out what I'm talking about online. You don't need me to go into the details, but it'll be interesting to see how his stock is impacted. If he didn't have that, I think he'd go earlier than this. I don't think he'd be getting past Green Bay and stuff like that. So there we go. That's round one. I said I'd get into the super chats after round one, and then we'll go on to round two. So if you have a super chat, get them in now, because I'm going to go into round two, and then you'll have to wait till the end of round two if you stay in there. Glenn, big thank you for supporting the channel. No message, just to support. Appreciate that. Noah says, we've been connected with a lot of cornerbacks like Hairston, Porter, and Ravel. When do you think we'll take one? And do you have a particular favorite fit? I think Ravel Jr. is the best fit. I think Mike McDonald wants reliability, physicality, and someone who's going to mix it up in hand-to-hand combat in a cornerback. Ravel Jr. does all of those things. If you listen to an interview with him, you can get into the sort of the nitty-gritty on details of scheme. He will talk about his role in college football. He's very, very football savvy. He's got high football IQ, and then you watch him on the tape, and he's got some good things there. Now, there are technical things that he needs cleaning up. We don't have any of the testing numbers because of his recovery from injury, but he looks like a good athlete to me. I just think he is the kind of guy that they love to take. Now, in this mock, he's not going to be available at 50. If he was available at 50, I would consider taking him there. But I think he is by far the best fit. I don't think they'll take Hairston because of the character issues that I've just talked about in the background. Porter, yeah, maybe. But I just think Ravel is the best fit. I think Ravel's the best fit for them. And if he's there at 50, he could easily be their second pick in this draft. Sam says, knowing Fant was a previous first-round pick, what does Loveland show in his performance that would outshine Fant's production so far? I think... I mean, I was never a massive Noah Fant guy personally. Like, John Schneider says that they were preparing to take him in round one, and then the Broncos took him just before their pick. I was never a massive Noah Fant guy personally. I didn't think he was particularly good. I didn't think he was worth a top 20 pick, apart from his testing, which was reasonable. But you have a lot of good testers at tight end. I think Loveland is a leaner player. He is more capable of sort of flashing down that seam, bursting into his routes. I think he can be a better threat in sort of mismatch opportunities. Yet the way that he sort of creates separation, even in the red zone in tight spots, I think is very impressive. So I think he's going to be better at separating while still having the size to sort of keep things honest as a tight end. Like, he is not a very good blocker. I think you can work him to be a passable blocker, though. And yet he will be a more dynamic receiving threat at that second level and deep and stuff like that. And he could end up being quite an X factor for you. And I think Sam Laporta is the player that I would compare there. Noah Fant is not a Sam Laporta type. And I think part of the problem with Fant is he's athletic, but he's not dynamic. And he can make plays, but I don't think you can feature him. And I think if you could move on from Fant to Loveland, it would be it would be a quality decision for me. Dogzilla Monster says, have you seen nose tackle Desmond Watson's vertical test? I have not. To answer that question. If you have any more super chats, send them in, and I will do them at the end of round 2. But we're going to crack on to round 2 now. So Vikings at 33. This is because they traded down in that deal with the Browns. There just seems to be this feeling that Benjamin Morrison's stock has recovered. I think a few weeks ago, there was a fear that his injury, I think it's a hip injury, could be a long-term issue. But he's trending back upwards again, which makes me think maybe the sort of the chit-chat amongst NFL people is that actually he's in a pretty good place. And if that's the case, he was a potential first-round pick anyway, as was Ravel Jr., by the way. He may well end up going in this kind of range. Giants at 34. I have got Jalen Milroe going here. Now, the reason I have Jalen Milroe going there is simply because there has to be a reason why I was invited to the NFL draft. They have not invited someone to sit there until round 3. He has to be going in the first 2 rounds. They have to have that intel. And it just makes me wonder, is a team going to just roll the dice at the end of the first round on him and say, do you know what? We know he's not, his progressions are not good. He didn't run the offense how you want to see it run at Alabama. But do you know what? Sod it. We're just going to take him and we're going to see if we can turn him into, another athletic, run around, big arm quarterback. And I can only imagine that's what the NFL has decided. I personally hope the Seahawks don't do it. No offense to Jalen Milroe. Love his legs. Love his arm. Don't love how he throws. Don't love the accuracy issues. Don't think he can run an offense that stays in time. Don't trust him to convert a 3rd and 10 in a big game unless he's running. Like his character, it's a bit too much projection for me. And yet the NFL's invited him and he's accepted the invitation. He's got on the record. He was on Jim Rome saying he's accepted it. He's going to be there. So it's all confirmed now. I have to believe that someone's going to take him early. 35, Luther Burden could go in the first round still. I think the reason he's fallen a little bit was just the weirdness of last season. And I think people just wonder a little bit, how much of a toss does he give? Is he going to come in and like work his arse off? I don't know. But a very talented player. And then he weapons like Cam Ward going to Tennessee and having no one to throw to would be ridiculous. 36 Jaguars had them taking Mason Graham early on. This is where I've got Elijah Arroyo going. Elijah Arroyo he's one of my favorite players in this draft. He is one of my favorite players in this draft. I just really, really enjoy watching him. I think he could be a George Kittle type player. I'm not saying that his blocking is going to be like George Kittle's, but I just think he's got that ability. You can line him up everywhere. He's just so difficult to cover. And the thing about Kittle was that when he's at his best, there's kind of like an inevitability that it's going to go to Kittle. It's 3rd and 8. You're going to throw it to Kittle. And Arroyo's strides and his ability to just get into position to make a completion just make me think he's the kind of player that can be a 1,000-yard tight end. I think he can be a dynamic playmaker. Now, there are medical things that you have to check with him. Just the more that I watched him, the more I just wanted him. And yeah, I just think, if it's not Warren, if it's not Loveland, I could see Arroyo in Seattle easily. And somebody's mentioned, he's done an interview, and it's just seen it in the chat now, that he's somebody that people will want because of the personality. That yes, like he is a Seahawk in terms of his personality. He is somebody that is going to be loved by NFL teams. And there's been a little bit of talk that he could go in the late first round, and I believe it. And people saying he's going to be there at 50. If he's there at 50, it's because the injury issues are a problem, and then the Seahawks probably won't take him. Arroyo is a quality player. Elijah Arroyo is going to be one of, if health permitting, and I suppose team permitting as well, because if he ends up on the wrong team, it's going to be a problem. If he goes somewhere that's decent, he can be one of the best players in this draft. Like 3 or 4 years down the line, people go, how the F did he last as long as he did? I think he's one of the 20 best players in this draft. So he's like the wild card for me. Like that, if people are like, whoa, I didn't see that coming, Arroyo at 18, I wouldn't hate it. If that happened, I would not be doing a video saying, what are they doing afterwards? I'd be saying, I get it. I totally understand it. I really, really like him. And people, like I say, I can see in the chat now, people going, he's going to go in the, he ain't going to be there at 50, 52. He's not going to be there at 50 or 52 unless the injury situation is bad. And then you're not taking him anyway. He's going to fall even further. He is a quality player, Arroyo. So I think if you want him, you either have to trade down from 18, take him in the 20s or the 30s. You have to take him at 18, or you have to trade up from 50. And I think I would not rule that out. I think he is a top player. So dynamic. Not a million miles behind the top 2 for me. But we'll see. Las Vegas. Pete Carroll, I can see liking Carson Schwarzenegger. Just seems like his kind of guy. 38 Patriots. I have got them taking the big man, Tyler Booker. Now, a quick thought on Tyler Booker, because he's somebody who's, it still frustrates me a little bit. I'm waiting for the Todd McShay stream to come out. It's supposed to be today. I don't know when that's coming out. The offensive line thing that they do. Because he was saying at the combine, Tyler Booker's going to go earlier than everybody thinks. And then he was kind of mocking him like 16, 18, that sort of thing, and maybe even earlier than that. And then without saying anything, he's suddenly got him in like round 2. And so does Mel Kiper. And so does Daniel Jeremiah. And you just think, well, what happened there? Like, how do we go from he's going to go earlier than people think to now he's round 2? There has to be some, like, is it purely just a testing? If it is, then fine. But let's hear it. Like, we've not had any update there. I like Booker. Nothing has changed for me on Tyler Booker. I think he's somebody who is going to be a quality player for a long, long time. Who you can plug in at left guard. I would not be angry if the Seahawks took him at 18. I don't think they're going to. I would be completely comfortable with them taking him round 2, even if they have to trade up and get him. He, according to Dane Brugler's Beast draft guide, he ran a 4.65 short shuttle. So yeah, we can talk about the 1.90 split, which was faster than Aaron Banks's, who was second rounder, $19.25 million a year contract now with Green Bay, playing his own blocking scheme for the 2 teams he's played for in the NFL, by the way. We can talk about the split, which is the same as Banks's. We can talk about the 40. We can talk about the lack of explosive traits. Not a million miles behind Aaron Banks, by the way, in terms of explosive traits. I think if you worked on that with him in particular, really what Booker should have done is not run, not do the jumps, and he'd be a top 20 pick right now. Doing the jumps and the running as kiboshed his stock, and he's probably going to stop a whole bunch of other people doing that the combine next year, by the way. But his body is in proportion. He does not have bad weight. He is consistent. He is aggressive. He sets the tone. There are going to be times in a game where you don't want your guard out running into space or to the second level. You just want him to get you a yard. Tyler Booker can get you a yard. Tyler Booker can pass pro. Keep your quarterback clean. Now, these things are important. He can be the voice of your offensive line. I want the offensive line to be the voice of the team in Seattle. I think that's the key to sort of turning the trenches into the focal point. He can help get you there. I think he's a really, really good player. And also, by the way, people are obsessing about the testing. If you watch his combine workout, he moved really well. He moved really, really well. So if you put that with the 4-6-5 short shuttle, I think he can run a zone blocking scheme. I don't think he's going to be as good as some of these other guys, but I think he can get out to the second level. I think he can get out in space. It's just not going to do it as well as some others. But if you can do it, and then you can get the blocking in a phone booth up front as well, and that's really good, then I'm happy to take this guy. So I'm not as down on him as a lot of other people just because of the testing. I think he's a quality player. And if there's one thing the Seahawks fans keep complaining about, it's just, oh, you need a guard, you need an interior offensive line. If you draft Tyler Booker, you ain't going to be worried about your left guard position for the next few years. It might not be elite. It might not be, Trey Smith, who's like one of the great testers of all time in terms of explosive traits, 5-star recruit, 5-star athlete. It might not be that, but you ain't going to be worrying about your left guard position if you've got Tyler Booker. So someone's just told me that Tyler Booker is attending the draft, which is good news for him. Maybe he is going to go early. Let me just put this to you, everybody. If the Seahawks take him at 18, don't be shocked. Because it's what everything I've said. He's their type of person. And they haven't done anything at left guard, which makes me think they're pretty confident they're going to get a left guard in this draft. And if they take him at 18, or if they trade down and they take him, you've got a left guard. And I don't want to hear anybody moaning about a 40-yard dash and a bad broad jump if they take him at 18 after all the pissing and moaning everybody did about the offensive line all offseason. I like Tyler Booker. I would draft Tyler Booker in round 1. And he might not be unbelievable special Trey Smith. He's a quality player, a good player. He's a good football player. And that's what this draft's about. If you ain't going to get up and get Tyler Warren, or Colston Loveland, or Armand Membu, or Abdul Carter, or Travis Hunter, you've got to look for the good players. That's what this draft is going to be, a draft full of good, not great players. Tyler Booker will be a good player at least. So the fact he's attending the draft makes me think, maybe. But then I could see the Chargers taking him. I could see the Lions taking him. I could see the Vikings taking him. So it doesn't have to be Seattle. I mean, he'd be a great fit with the Lions. Chicago at 39. I did say, look, the reason they're not taking Tyler Warren, the reason they're moving down is because they can get one of the other two tight ends to take Mason Taylor here. Really good player. Really smooth. Consistent. I just don't think he's got that same special quality that the top 3 have got at tight end. New Orleans at 40. A player who clearly I think is going to go earlier than this board because I think Jordan Birch has just got that. The Saints have gone after these kind of players. Big, athletic players. And I think, Jordan Birch could be the future replacement for Cam Jordan. So take him in at 40. 41 Bears straight back on the clock. They need another pass rusher. I've got them taking Landon Jackson here. Had a bit of size and aggression to their line. Jets at 42. Okay, I mean, people who watch my streams will know all why I'm doing this. I've got the Jets taking Will Howard. I think someone's going to take Will Howard in round 2. Like teams are going to end up loving him. You may have seen the video we did, the practice interview we did with Jake Heaps today on Twitter. And, the mark of the man. I mean, he is just incredibly likable for football teams who want to invest somebody who's going to be the face of their franchise, who's going to be the main man, who's going to be the CEO, who's going to be the leader of not just the offense, but the whole team. You watch the John Gruden quarterback camp. Team's going to love him. That's the first thing. That's only the one thing. Second thing, playoffs. almost perfect in the playoffs. 96.4 was it? QBR in 4 games. How the hell do you have that in 4 games? Hundreds perfect. He was near perfect in those playoff games. And Ohio State 50% completions on conversions on third down in the playoffs. That's unbelievable. So that's what people look for in these quarterbacks: third downs and sort of winning and getting the job done and doing what you need to do. Now, Will Howard is not going to be Mahomes, Allen, Lamar, Joe Burrow. Can he be the 13th best quarterback in the NFL for a second round pick and facilitate your team, if you build it up, to be pretty decent? Yeah, you can. And that's what I think is going to end up happening here. I think teams are just going to go, we want this guy. We're going to give him a chance. We're going to take a shot. We're going to buy a raffle ticket. And we're going to take a chance on Will Howard. And I don't think they'll be the only ones who think that. I think the Giants might think that. The Raiders. I've got the Jets doing it. Saints might do it. Seahawks might be interested in him. I think there's a few teams that will look at Will Howard and think, he can do this for us. That Gruden quarterback camp, I mean, just the way that he commanded himself, like he was a 10-year veteran on that video, handling all the stuff that Gruden was throwing at him. That was so impressive. So impressive. That's part of the battle. Like these rookies get in there. I've talked about this on 2 streams, so apologies if you've heard this twice already. Rookies get in there and they don't know the terminology. They don't understand the language. Everything's like a foreign language to them. It's like going to France. You've never done a day of French in your life and trying to speak the language. Like they just drown. They don't understand. They keep getting things wrong. The coaches get on their backs. The rest of your teammates think you suck. They're talking behind your back. This guy in it, this high draft pick isn't the guy. You go back the next day, it's even worse. Your head gets scrambled. You're already on you're to uphill task. Having someone like Will Howard who understands all of that right now and can walk into that building and everyone just respects him because, hey, this guy's an old head on young shoulders. This guy understands it. This guy gets it. You can people won't mind you throwing an interception in a 1v1 downfield. If you've got into the right play, you've done the right call and it was a bit off. You can teach someone how to avoid that. You can teach someone to throw the ball better. They can get up to the pace of the NFL over time. That sort of initial first step to understand the language of the NFL and get in and out of plays, get into the huddle, have a command of a huddle. That is so important. People that is important. When I've spoken to people in the league, they've said, like, what do you need from a quarterback? Someone who can command a huddle, who when they speak, everybody else listens and thinks, this guy's got it. This guy has got it. And then the other thing is third down conversions. It's making plays on third down. That is what Will Howard has shown he can do. And you can watch all these tapes now. People like throwing it around in spread offenses where it's half field reads, one read, getting instructions from the sideline. Yeah, that all looks great in college, doesn't it? When you're playing overmatched opponents in the ACC. When you're playing in the Big Ten and you're playing in the playoffs and you're winning a national championship and you're winning the Big 12 with Kansas State, which they've only done 3 times since the turn of the century, and you can command a huddle and you do understand the plays and you do understand the terminology and you are a decent athlete, these are things that matter to NFL teams. So he's going to go in day 2. I think he's going to go in round 2, and we'll see where he goes. We'll see where he goes. And by the way, I saw like I think there's a Jet. Is there a Jets fan in there? I think saying that I've no doubt that Fields will be the starter this year. By the way, I'm not saying that Will Howard's going to come in and start year 1 for the Jets. I think it's about getting him in and let him have a year, and then you see how it goes. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets draft him in a year's time, he wins that job. Justin Fields has shown nothing in the NFL, by the way. Like, he does not look like a starter to me. So he's kind of like the placeholder. He's the bridge. He's the take a shot and see if this guy works out. But if not, we're going to move on, and it's not going to cost us. And I would imagine, going to draft somebody. Niners desperately need defensive tackle. Really like Tyler Williams. Like the Aleem McNeil former interview we did on Seattle Strap Blog back in the day. Good guy. Follows yours truly on Twitter, so he knows what he's doing. Really like him, and Tyler Williams reminds me a lot of him. I think Tyler Williams could even be better if he lost weight, by the way. I think he just lose a little bit of weight I think he could be even better. Dallas at 44. I think this guy, this was one of the picks I wasn't that sure about. I've just got a feeling he's going to go earlier than this, but he's here. Cowboys need a running back. They take Travion Henderson, electric player. I don't think he's going to get the hard yards, but he can be an explosive play kind of guy. And they might want to have a bit of a rotation going on at running back anyway in Dallas. Colts at 45. Josh Simmons on tape was the best tackle in the draft for me. But he had the patella tendon injury, I think it was, which is the Jimmy Graham injury. And he has some character issues. That's going to keep him on the board. So I have him going here. But word on the street is that the Colts are eyeing up tackles. And I think he could slip inside initially if you needed him to. 46, a player that I've talked about already. I think the Seahawks would love to last to 50. Siobhan Ravel, just a superb player. I really like him, and I think he'd be a great pick at 50 if he lasts. 47, Arizona. Donovan Jackson. Another player that when I was doing the mock, I was thinking, really, I want to put him in the top 40. He's an explosive tester. He has the kind of length you're looking for. Short shuttle is a 4.84. Not great. But he's the kind of player that you get into between 35 and 40, and you think, that's a quality starter. That's a player that I want. And for that reason, I just think that you could easily take him there in that sort of range, 35, 40. So when I am lasting to 47, I'm like, yeah, do I want to put him where Tyler Booker is? And then do I want to put Booker here because of the testing? But then, I've spoken to people who like both players. So it probably is just a pick your poison. If the Patriots prefer Jackson, then Booker maybe lasts to here and vice versa. So it could be the other way around is basically what I'm saying. And I think, look, if you're the Seahawks, I know you've already traded up once here. If you've got either of those players at 47, I would be tempted to move up a few spots and just say, what the hell, let's go and get quality over quantity. And again, I started off with that. The Seahawks need quality. They don't need necessarily 10 players added to the roster. They just need some really good players added to the roster at this point. Dolphins at 48. Alfred Collins, who, you have to go. Like, sometimes you watch Alfred Collins, you go, oh, amazing, like quality. And then there's other times you just think, oh my word, will you just play with a bit more anger and aggression? But he's big, he's athletic. I think he can work into some kind of a one technique nose. I think he's probably more athletic and more of a playmaker than that. But I know people I really respect who think he's a first round pick. And I think the balance of the bad testing plus the high grade, plus the highly recruited sort of big expectation for him. It took him a while to get going at Texas. It all culminates in, yes, you go in the top 50. You maybe don't go in the first round, and I won't rule it out. And this is the kind of range he ends up going. But the Dolphins need a defensive tackle badly. So 48 would be. I know one Dolphins fan who would like that pick. So I've seen what he's been saying about Collins. 49 and the Bengals. Not a player that I'm a massive fan of, but Jonas Savaiinaea. I don't think he's aggressive enough. I don't think he finishes enough blocks. I think he's a frustrating player to watch. But I know there are people out there who like him a lot more than I do, who I respect. And I've spoken to people in the league who like him a lot. I don't. That's okay. I'm not going to... If it was down to me, I think I've got a third-round grade on him. I would not take him here, but other people would take him here and take him earlier than here. They'd probably take him in the late first, early second. So just throwing it out there. But he's not my personal favorite. So then we get to the Seahawks at 50. And I've got him taking Tate Ratledge. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this video and explain a bit more about these picks was for this pick as well. Because I saw some people going, well, who's moving to left guard? Because you've got Christian Haynes a right guard, Tate Ratledge a right guard, and nobody at left guard. And my sort of response to that was going to be, yeah, but they tried to sign Will Fries, who was a right guard. So if they were trying to sign Will Fries, if they had have landed him on a massive contract, then would they have put Will Fries at left guard and moved him? Or would they have moved Christian Haynes over to left guard? So they obviously had a plan for Will Fries, who has not played left guard. So I don't see any reason, therefore, why they wouldn't have a plan for Tate Ratledge if they drafted him at 50. Do you move him to left guard? Maybe. Do you move Christian Haynes to left guard? Maybe. I don't think I think Tate Ratledge is good enough that I don't worry about it too much. I know in an ideal world, he'd be left guard and you just plug him in there, or Haynes will be, and it's fine. But I'm definitely not going to not take Tate Ratledge at 50 purely because of Christian Haynes. And maybe it's Anthony Bradford who plays left guard, or maybe it's LeMayer. I don't know. But I can't not take Ratledge because he's the same position. And the Fries thing does make a difference to me. The fact that they were willing to bring in a right guard from the Indianapolis Colts makes you think they'd be willing to take a right guard from the University of Georgia. Now, why Ratledge? His explosive testing is and size are very, very similar to Will Fry's. Very similar. And then you consider his 10-yard split is elite. So he's got the foot speed and the get off that you look for, zone blocking scheme. His 3-cone was, I think, something like the third best we've seen from a lineman in recent history since the records began, maybe even in 2003. So he's agile. He is aggressive. The tape does not show an amazing zone blocking guard, even though he's got all of the characteristics that you would associate with a great zone blocking guard. I don't know if that's just the scheme. It's multi. It does a bit of gap, bit of zone in Georgia, same as the Ravens do. And they like these bigger guys like the Ravens do. But it's a little bit with Booker to me. You know, he's got the athleticism to do zone blocking. Teach him how to do it, essentially. You know, everything else is there. And at this stage, with the Seahawks desperately needing interior offensive linemen, I think it's fine to take Tate Ratledge. And a bit like with Booker, he's a voice. He's extremely well respected at Georgia. He can sort of be the leader with Abe Lucas on the line. If you want to play him at right guard and just keep him comfortable there, I'm fine with that. Move somebody else or draft a left guard later. How about that? I don't care. But I don't have any problem taking Tate Ratledge here. And I suspect that most Seahawks fans would have no problem taking Tate Ratledge there either. 51 and the Bengals. Defensive linemen are going to fly off the board in this draft. And it could be Sanders, Alexander here, Shamar Turner. I've got them taking Joshua Farmer. You know, they've got some guys who are coming to the end of their contracts. And I think sort of chucking in a defensive lineman to the mix here for the Broncos. They can get a running back in. I mean, it could take a quid on Junkins here. I think DJ Giddens is a better fit for the Broncos, and they can get him in round three. So that's what I'm going to get them doing here. So back onto the Seahawks here. And it's another Georgia offensive lineman. It's Jared Wilson. If you look at Jared Wilson's testing, it's almost identical to Eric McCoy, who was the center who excelled so much with Clint Kubiak in New Orleans last year. So you've got the physical profile of somebody we know can work in this system. We also know that he is extremely well liked, like Tate Ratledge at Georgia. He's intelligent, he's mature, and his zone blocking tape is good. He's kind of like in the 75 range for a zone blocker, which, by the way, Eric McCoy was not a good zone blocker at Texas A&M. And he's developed into that because he's got the profile to develop into that. Jared Wilson's already playing at a higher level in his own blocking system and has room to grow. Now, I think they had him in for an official 30 visit, I think, in the last few days, or maybe that's upcoming, but he's one of their players that coming in for an official 30 visit. I think they had him in so they could stick him in front of a whiteboard and see if he could pick up the protections. Because we know with Clint Kubiak, you need to be able to do the protections at center. Now, if you were drafting a center at 52, he is starting this year. You would imagine. You're not sitting him. So they need to know whether he can do the protections, whether he can understand the concepts within the offense. What is his knowledge from Georgia? How much of that stuff did he do at Georgia with the protections? Can he pick it up very quickly in Seattle? It might be about gauging their comfort level with that. That could be the difference between whether they take him at 52 or don't take him at all and just stick with Oluwatimi, quite frankly. And we will not know how they feel about that from that meeting. That's the impression that I would get from that. Now, if he went in there and impressed them, then he could easily be one of their picks in round 2. His range is expected to be late second, early third. He's not going to last to 82. And if you've traded it away like I have here, he ain't going to last to the 90s. So the other thing Clint Kubiak said was his system needs an elite center. Now, Jared Wilson is probably the only player with a physical profile in this center class to give you the chance to have that in his own blocking system. So I can see it. I can see this. It makes some sense. 2 Georgia linemen, put them next to each other. That's a plus as well. yes, you've still got to work out what you're doing at left guard, but I think you've got the framework in place now to improve your offensive line, and I think Seahawks fans would accept that. And I think, the offense definitely needs more work. It needs more work. And if you put Tyler Warren in with Tate Ratledge and Jared Wilson, I think the offense can take a step forward. So that's what I've gone with there. And you've got other picks to go and get defensive players. It's some good safeties. There's some good defensive linemen available later on. You could still draft a quarterback later if you wanted to, receiver. So cornerback, there's plenty of options for you there. You've got picks. So to finish off the second round, 53, a cornerback I really like, Azariah Thomas. The testing might keep him on the board a little bit later than some of the others, but really like him. He just ran a slow 40. Green Bay, one of my other favorite players from this draft class, Jack Besh, reminds me of Jordy Nelson, and I think he's a really good player. And I think in the right team, he can be a star. Chargers, Jaden Higgins, another player. I like him. I'm not as high on him as some people seem to be absolutely besotted with Jaden Higgins. I'm not in that place. I actually prefer his teammate, Jalen Noel. But I like Higgins, and I can see the Chargers liking Higgins and taking him here to add to their weapons. And they need to add another receiver at some point. 56 Bills, another receiver. The receiver run continues here. And Savion Williams there's a chance he could go in the top 50, apparently. I don't see it. I think he's more of a third, fourth rounder personally. He's a gadget player, frustrating drops, gimmicks, might be a better running back. Might be a better Cordero Patterson type. I don't know. These kind of gadgety players don't do a lot for me. I think they're a luxury pick, but the Bills are a team that can maybe afford a luxury pick. And look what they do with Cook. Williams could play James Cook's role if needs be. They could develop him into that as a runner. I don't think that's out of the realms of possibility. Love Braden Swinson. Really like Braden Swinson, along with Ezra, who led college football for pressures in the regular season last year. I think he's a top player. I think he could be one of the steals of the draft. If he lasts here, then oh, wow. If the Seahawks took him in round 2, I'd be jumping for joy. Houston at 58. I have got them taking a defensive tackle. TJ Sanders, a player I really liked on tape. I thought the Senior Bowl was a bit disappointing. I think maybe the lower body, the lack of build on the lower body, got thin legs, worries me a little bit. I think as a pass rusher, though, he's got a lot to offer. Baltimore. I'm not a big Ursery guy. Ariante Ursery to me is just a big cumbersome oaf at times, but he tests well, and I just think he needs to kick up the arse on tape. But the Ravens take players like this. They took the big Daniel Falele. I really did not like him at all. And they just take these big. I didn't even like Ronnie Stanley that much. Like they take these big guys and they kind of just think that's that way they roll. His zone blocking grade is pretty good. So if they want him as a move guy, they might think, we can play him at tackle. They do need some depth there. With Ronnie Stanley's injury history, they could probably play him at guard. They do like these bigger guards. So I think it's a possibility he could play inside, at least initially. I just feel like he's a Ravens type pick. But not, if the Seahawks took him, I'd be thinking, oh. But he has got a good zone blocking grade, in fairness to him. So he's got that going for him. But he has kind of a cool first name. Detroit. Again, not another player that I'm crazy about, but JTT at Ohio State for me, I just like an effort player. I want to see so much more in the last 2 years, and it just never happened. But, the Lions like these kind of guys. Washington at 61, a player who I do like, and I'm going to have to go to the board to find him here because they have him rated ridiculously lowly. But Ty Robinson, I've seen Cam Hayward comparisons. I see it. I know people who don't think he's that good, but I think he can be really good. I think he can be a starter. I think he can be a hair on fire player who can help set the tone for you up front. So I like him. And I think he's a Dan Quinn kind of player. Buffalo at 62, a safety, Xavier Watts. I think I don't know what I think Xavier was. If the Seahawks ended up taking him, I'm like, okay, fair enough. I think he looks like an intelligent player. He looks like he has something about him on tape. But so many of his interceptions, like people talk about the production. There are a lot of fluky, like quarterbacks throwing the ball to him, tipped passes type of thing. I just think that the production side of his profile is a little bit overrated. Final two picks. I've got James Pierce Jr. going here. Like everything I've read about James Pierce Jr. is that basically no one at Tennessee liked him. He was a bit of a loner. He kind of did what he wanted, and the character concerns are like really legit. And you're going to get to looking at that and you're thinking, well, who's going to take him then? Like, who is he actually good enough to want that? And if everyone at Tennessee is giving him a bad rap, and by the looks of Tennessee in the last week, don't mess around. I just don't understand which teams go, I want James Pierce Jr. Because you know what you're bringing into the locker room. And the Chiefs are one of those teams that maybe could justify it, that you've got enough veteran experience there and maybe just that carrot of championship contention to motivate a player like that. But a bad team can't draft him. And the Lions like to draft him over, effort player or the Commanders. I just don't know about that. I mean, he could go late first. He could go mid-second. I mean, it only takes one team. The character things just seem like, he seems like such a pain in the arse. Like, who's going to take him? So I think that's something you have to consider there with him. I wouldn't even be surprised if he fell out of round 2. And then Harold Fannin Jr. is the last pick there because they're trying to get rid of Dallas Goedert. So, that seems like it's possible. So there we go. That is the mock draft. And you can quickly see all the picks there. I had the Seahawks moving up from 18 to 10 in a deal with the Bears to get Tyler Warren. And then in round 2, I had them taking Tate Ratledge and Jared Wilson. And, just a reminder that if they'd have stayed at 18, I would have taken Malachi Starks or Emeka Egbuka at 18. And, alternative picks, if you want some alternative picks, then I think if Siobhan Ravel had lasted, he would have been an alternative pick. I think Tyler Booker and Donovan Jackson would be realistic alternative picks. I think they're going to love Elijah Arroyo and like Mason Taylor. I think any of the defensive tackles could be an option, really. Just they need a nose tackle. So maybe more the Kenneth Grant went in the late first, Tyleik Williams, those kind of players. I think they like Ty Robinson. I think they might like Braden Swinson. And then, so the receivers, the Besh, the Higgins, could be an option for them too. So Alfred Collins, another sort of nose tackle type they could go for there. So that's what I went for. And, I'm interested to know what you think in the comments section. Let me know. I mean, whenever you do a mock draft on YouTube, you know that the comments can be full of people telling you don't know what you're talking about. So, if we could just lighten up on that a little bit and just sort of understand that there's a bit of a thought process going here. We don't have to agree with everything, but let me know what your thoughts are. Right. Let's get through the super chats I didn't get to. There are only a couple of them. So Gabriel says, Colin Oliver, Ethan Down, thoughts, test numbers. I have not done Ethan Downs. I can't remember what I thought about Colin Oliver. So sorry, Gabriel. Off the top of my head, I mean, we're talking like I've got 300 players on the horizontal board. I'd have to go and look at my notes on Colin Oliver. Don't think I've done Ethan Downs. And then Kevin says, any interest in drafting 3 interior Georgia O-line? I mean, no, just because I think Dylan Fairchild, I think that the actual line itself, I mean, bear in mind, Ratledge didn't play half the season, and then when he did, he was injured. I don't think the Georgia line played that well. I think the tackles were more of an issue than the interior linemen. I just don't know. All 3 of them for a line that didn't dominate for me is a bit much. But Fairchild's got good zone blocking tape. He's a good wrestler. He's got some athleticism. He can get to the second level. He does play with aggression. So I'm not against it. It's just when you watch a line and they don't absolutely dominate the SEC or anything like that. We're going to take the whole line, the whole interior line there. I guess you kind of just want to see a little bit more from them in that kind of occasion. But if that's what you've got to do, and Dylan Fairchild has got experience at left guard. Anyway, that's as far as I'm going to go with this mock draft. Tomorrow on the channel is going to be my interview with Tony Pauline. I do this every single year. Tony is a good friend. I think the world of Tony. He inspired Seahawks Draft Blog as much as anyone really, along with Mike Sando. That desire and that want to sort of just study tape all of the time and know a lot of things about the draft is something that Tony inspired me to do. And I've been interviewing him for probably over 10 years now about the draft. So we will get his thoughts on the draft. I'll ask him about the Seahawks, see if he's hearing anything. That is going to be on the channel tomorrow. We're at about 9,200 subscribers. I really want to get up towards 10,000. I said set the target before the draft. I don't think we're going to get there, and we've done well to get up to 9.2. I'd love to try and get up there. I know there's only about half of you who watch these videos who subscribe. So just if you want to do one thing for me, just hit that subscribe button. Let's get up towards 10,000. If you can do me a second favor, like the video and leave a comment in the comment section. Taker 610 has quickly rushed in with the last super chat. I really like adding a star tight end and two solid offensive line prospects. Let's make Darnold lead the league in passing touchdowns. Yeah, I think this would really help Sam Darnold. And if you're not going to take a quarterback early, and if you're going to sort of just give him the chance to be the guy, I think this is the kind of draft that you've got to have to give him that chance to be the guy. So thank you for your super chat, Taker. Thank you to everybody who sent those in. So hit that subscribe button, like, comment. Tony Pauline interview on the channel tomorrow. You don't want to miss that. SeahawksDraftBlog.com for more analysis. Until next time, enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you soon.